Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting Propagandacast straight from Denmark in the Propaganda Ministry with me, ImperialDane, Lord of all Propaganda. Or so I'd like to believe. Today I have for you a rather interesting treat. I hope it's a 1 versus 1 on Angoville. Yes, indeed, it is the map I do not always like playing on in the south. And of course we do know the game. The map is divided through by a road. One side of the map has numerous victory points, but also has a lot of buildings and a lot of bocage, making things a lot harder there. We also have one side that's awfully open, making it for good maneuvering, but at the same time not so many victory points there. So it's sort of a trade-off there. At the same time, in the northern corner we are seeing perfect redeem of the 2nd Armored Division, or could it be? No, we shall not say they are the 2nd Armored Division, that would be a bit droll. Instead they are the 3rd Infantry Division, Hussar, and who shall they be facing? I wonder who. Oh my goodness, it is that dashing Major Dane of the 91st Luftlande Division. Glider troops and all, albeit they haven't been gliding in many years, they are ready to fight the Amerikanischer. In fact, let's get right to it, shall we, eh? And as you might be noticing, I'm starting in the south of Angoville. It's the position I don't really like starting in, due to the rather peculiar starting situation. We are of course seeing Wehrmacht quarters and barracks up there, but why don't I like starting up here? Well, for starters, there's this point. It's rather difficult to hold. There's this rather nasty gap, which makes this strategic point holding. Of course, you can set up some barbed wire, but still it's going to be difficult, and if they take it, then they can set up shop here and make it rather hard for you to get to it by firing from all angles of this house. But at the same time, the south position would also need to be wired off, because otherwise they'll sneak in there, and then you'll need to wire off this position, or they'll just walk right into your base, because there's a big fat gap right there. Sort of a lot of weaknesses here for a Wehrmacht commander, which rather makes it a frustrating thing, which is why I usually go for the western side and hope for the best. Pioneers marching out to all sides, Luftlande pioneering, dashing chaps with their MP40s and Stahlhelmen. At the same time we are seeing engineers in the east and going straight for this high fuel point in the west, ignoring everything in between. Rather bold. At the same time we are seeing Volksgrenadieren or Ersatztruppen, whatever you would like. Ersatztruppen of course being a sort of feature of German divisions. They each had a battalion of troops, basically fresh troops, and then they were then further trained to sort of assist the division in whatever they would like. Plus they would also act as a divisional reserve as well, alongside the Fusilier Battalion, which was sort of composed of the veterans and was partly also the more mobile part of the division, and also the reconnaissance element. And we are seeing engineers coming under straight fire from these Volksgrenadiers, marching ahead with their Kar-98Ks, riflemen nearby, desperately trying to link up this fuel point with any sort of American sector, but there is no luck, and the Wehrmacht is nearby, laying down sandbags for the fatherland. Good German sand, or possibly just French sand. They'll probably not be bothering to import sand from Germany, considering fuel situation at this state. Further Volksgrenadiers continuing towards the west, and why am I then bothering with the east if it's of course just going to be taken by the Americans? Well, it's going to take them time to take it, and it's also going to be a nice sort of treat for them. Oh right, I can steal some German territory. Brilliant, he says, and then says, brilliant, he's taking that while I'm busy taking the other side and digging in like there's no tomorrow. Already having a bit of sandbags there to sort of protect in case of an American assault. Further Volksgrenadiers moving in to support the first one, and riflemen moving in, and Volksgrenadiers quickly running back to the sandbags, having a nice position there, entrenched small position there. Further Volksgrenadiers moving in from the flank, and these riflemen and engineers are coming under a bit of fire. Further sandbags being laid down to rather make this unpleasant for these riflemen as they're continuing to blast away, and of course this light hedge will of course make it a bit easier to protect their flanks as well. Riflemen taking quite a bit of exposed fire, pioneers getting out of there. This territory is being seized, but currently it's not going to help the American commander, which is of course to my advantage. So a good bit there of diversionary measures and a sort of a red herring basically make him think, oh right, it's important, I'll get in. Of course, all I'm doing is basically delaying him while I'm setting up to rather resist his primary assault, rather than trying to fight him in unfavorable territory. At least as far as I'm concerned. We'll of course see what sort of complications this will have. Further, Volkskrone is getting ready, and here I am laying down barbed wire. Why am I laying down barbed wire here? So he doesn't swing about through here and goes through here. Instead, if he does try to swing through, he will run straight into the arc of fire of the machine gun bunker, which of course is going to be my advantage. And there we go, MG42 arriving, and Volkskrone is also getting ready. Sandbags being laid down here, and some further barbed wire and some further sandbags, rather making this a rather nice defensive position. Although I might want to consider laying down some barbed wire here as well, but for some reason I have this idea in mind that I want to move out through there in case something happens. Huzzah! Third Volkskrone team has arrived, and rather nice large squad there. Riflemen moving in from the north, but they are hitting the MG fire of the MG42, and noticing that something is going on here on the minimap, I immediately move down here to deal with these rascally Americans. Opening up on them, and the Americans are swift to take up position right here behind this wrecked pickup truck, which of course is going to allow them to tie up most of my forces. But of course I'm going to put on as much pressure on them to get them out as quickly as possible so I can move on my troops. Engineers and pioneers all heading towards this central point, and engineers trying to wire off this bit, ensuring that I can't sneak over through here to there. Not a bad move, and riflemen forced to retreat, taking some losses in the process. And yes, indeed, there's quite a lot going on already. Lots of firing, lots of entrenching, fortifications and all that. And looks like we are seeing a bit of a break here. Some riflemen and engineers, and an observation post on this fuel point as well. We can already imagine that something's rather being planned there. But what? I can't say. It could be armor, could be BARs. Of course, BARs being a rather regular staple of the Amerikanische Armee. And the 91st Luftlande Division, though, is not being stopped by that. And we are seeing some barbed wire being hurt here, but what is this? Oh dear, yes, indeed, here's another threat of being in South Angoville. They begin scorching your wooden fences and breaking into your base. Which of course could also mean, if I'm really unlucky, you might have demolition charges. How do I react to this? Well, as soon as I see this, and also I'm aware that he hasn't broken through there yet, I retreat my troops. If your base is getting attacked, you have to be careful about retreating your troops in. You might just walk them into a trap. Then again, if you can get there in time, or at least you expect you can actually make this a rather nasty surprise for the American commander. Volkskrone is opening up on these riflemen. This is a rather, of course, bold move, which of course is a rather unpleasant surprise for me. Volkskrone team, though, might be cut down. Second Volkskrone team moving into a sniper position. Unfortunate. Engineers trying to move in, but they hit the MG arc instead. And looks like we are seeing this MG42 getting bypassed by these riflemen again, due to the unfortunate bit here that I wanted to be open. I wanted mobility. Yes, brilliant. You of course also give your opponent mobility, you genius. And also having laid down a mine there, but some retreating troops set that off, much to my chagrin. Volkskrone immediately march out. These chaps are slightly forgotten, having hidden behind the headquarters, perhaps for a smoke and a bit of ersatz cafe. Volkskrone is marching in once more, ready to launch a dashing counterattack at these dastardly Americans. Opening up, riflemen are rather, despite their BAR, rather outgunned, taking quite a bit of fire. And Seal having been chosen, the 91st Luftlande Division goes for Seal. It goes for Propaganda. It goes for really launching some nasty attacks. Riflemen, though, here stealing my fuel point, much to my unfortunate dismay. Trias enters up. No medic station up, though, to sort of help with the attrition bits here, as he is rather taking some heavy losses. And these riflemen are, in fact, looking rather ill. Down to 4 men, and each of those 4 men are in a very, very terrible condition. Volkskrone is in the north, holding off all of these riflemen. MG42, though, moving in to help. Pioneers also trying to help with their minesweepers, although it can't be used as much except an improvised club. Volkskrone is forced to retreat, and riflemen forced to run the gauntlet. That's a bit of unfortunate there. Might be cut down. Riflemen caught out there by the MG42, taking heavy losses. Rifleman, last man, and he makes it out of there. By Jove. Slight drinking break, and my throat is ready once more to serve the fatherland. And here we go. Of course, now he's utterly occupied in the west, I begin harassing and stealing territory in the east. Sort of a nice thing to do, be aggressive, and of course once he's completely focused on one side, begin yoinking parts of his territory from the other side. Be aggressive, be bold, and be sneaky if you can, infiltrate and all that. Getting a pack ready, since I am aware that he has held most of the territory. I'm of course not aware there's a fuel point, but that's certainly going to be an important and decisive bit. Engineers trying to press through it, cut some wire. Volksgrenadiers trying to fire away at them, but it is too late. They have cut the wire, and the Volksgrenadiers, of course, coming under fire from the riflemen, quickly behind these sandbags. So wisely placed before. Grenadiers moving in with the Gewehr 43s. Opening up on these riflemen, might drop some grenades on them. They might drop, yes, there we go. Grenades flying through the air into the bushes, and not doing one bloody bit. And Grenadiers trying to take the territory, but they realize otherwise. And the Volksgrenadiers take over the point. Mind you, Volksgrenadiers in skirmish phase can take territory faster, but Grenadiers are generally better at it, having the same capture speed as riflemen, which is something you don't really hear much talked about. And Pioneers heading towards the east, and I do believe this is about the time where I spot that, oh wait, he has this observation post on a fuel point, particularly the high fuel point, which is rather not to my advantage. And going straight for the assault phase, as I do believe I spot this, and rather realizing that, oh bother, I might want to get something in case he throws Shermans at me. Volksgrenadiers holding the line here. MG42 in support, catching these dastardly riflemen out in the open, and I do believe it is time for the mid-game analysis. I know somebody said, oh yes, this is awfully a short game, and yes, but as you might have noticed, also an awfully active game, and also a rather shifting game. Certainly a lot of things going on, lots of fortification work, which is certainly something I'd like you to note, and of course plugging in all those holes made by those sneaky Americans so unthoughtfully cutting holes in my barbed wire. Of course, the situation is rather, at the moment for me, a bit pressed. Despite best attempts, I'm slowly edging back towards most of the map, but the American really has the advantage, or at least has had the advantage, pushing through with riflemen with BARs. Not really had time to get some veterancy. Currently just desperately pushing up towards better equipment, also getting a half-track no, as some of you might have sneakily noticed, which of course might allow me for some mobile firepower, and of course allowing me to keep my troops longer in the field by allowing them to reinforce in the field. Yes, very dastardly, but really pushing onwards there. And how do I survive? Well, I need to really keep this part of the map at least mine. I need to keep it stable, and I need to keep it as a breakwater, constantly forcing my opponent to throw men at it, break him, and then of course slightly push outwards, although of course he is aware that something's going on in the east, and he is sending some riflemen to punish my poor Pioneers with their nasty Browning automatic rifles. Of course, but really this is the major point, focal point. I need to keep this mind. I need to keep this for the 91st Luftlande Division. Otherwise those dastards of the 3rd Infantry Division will really make me pay. In fact, let's go switch over to him. What does he have? No doctrine as of yet. My goodness, but he does have a supply yard up, and that seems to be about it, though. He is rather low in manpower, and why is this? Well, again, it's the matter of attrition, and of course, while he has been able to push through as several times, at the same time I have made him pay dearly for every inch of soil he has taken from Germany, and that is of course something you should always do. Of course, even if you can't hold it, make him pay for it before you retreat. That is sort of the thing you have to balance in a game like Company of Heroes, how many people you kill compared to how many he kills of yours. And of course using cover and barbed wire can really make a difference in those cases. Of course also mines, but really I haven't mentally had the time to lay down a lot of mines. In fact, I have a lot of munitions, and now I have a half-track as well. But what is going on in the American base? Absolutely nothing. Apparently a small break time, and looks like the eastern half of the map is once more falling into hands of Americans. And looking like I am seizing up right near this half-track, but looks like I might be pushing towards these. The MG42 staying here, protecting this bit where it can, of course, rather nicely, as long as no engineers try to cut another hole if my barbed wire. Looks like the half-track will move into support. At the same time, we are seeing a large American movement moving towards here as well. Will be a meeting of forces, a clash out in the open. Half-track moves in swiftly, I hope. And looks like we will be seeing a large engagement right here in the east. Volksgrenadiers and Grenadiers right out in the open, which is not a good thing about these riflemen now as well. Grenade flung at the rifleman. One down, and the half-track to the rescue, allowing Volksgrenadiers to reinforce. One team of Volksgrenadiers setting up in this building, ready to cover any troops. Riflemen forced to retreat in the face of this amassed firepower. At the same time, riflemen are pushing through in the west again. This tiny little gap, which of course I felt necessary to have, is of course forcing me to once more redivert my forces from the east. I wager very soon. Again, a good job there. You want to constantly force him to shift your forces if you're on the offensive and he is on the defensive. The more his forces are shifted, the less he can actually establish a solid defensive line, and of course the harder he's going to have in actually throwing back your attacking forces. And of course now I'm trying to deal with this observation post and cut him off for his fuel. Notice that he has a lot of fuel, but also a lot of munitions, and of course if you were to get, say, infantry doctrine or airborne doctrine, he could get some rather nasty messages to really throw me off my track and make me really uncomfortable. Getting the Sturm Armory now, still no Kampfkraft center, but really pressing onwards again. Rather feeling it's a race against the Sherman tank at this stage of the fight. Perfect redeems forces pushing through here in the east, really keeping me on my toes as well. Volksgrenadier still holding out in this building, still ready for anything the Yankees might do. And the half-track constantly shifting from east to west to east. Once more Americans are charging in, and once more they are running straight into this half-track. Oh, things are not looking good for these Grenadiers and Volksgrenadiers either. Getting awfully under fire from all sides. Engineers now moving in as well. Grenadiers throwing grenades at these riflemen, and a rather well thrown one here, killing quite a few riflemen. Engineers stopped by the MG off the half-track. But a rather large rat for my forces. Riflemen are pressing onwards, coming under fire from the building, where the Volksgrenadiers are valiantly holding out against the Yankees. The 91st still holds on. Pack right here, and I do believe, yes indeed, we are seeing the M4 Sherman, staple of the American armed forces throughout most of the war. Pretty much the only thing before though was the M3 Lee, which was quickly replaced as soon as possible, as it had some rather odd design features. Like for example, it had its main gun in a fixed position rather than in a turret, which rather made it a bit curious. Plus it had a turret besides that, so it had two guns, and rather than what logic might consign, having more turrets than one on a tank is actually rather confusing, is what I'm told. Another pack moving in. Again, I'm rather expecting some sort of nasty armor business, and I rather want as many anti-tank assets ready to deal with this. Sometimes you can't guess this. Of course, this is something like if you know your opponent has a fuel observation point, and of course if he has a lot of riflemen with BARs and you haven't seen much, then seeing some Shermans might not be too far-fetched. Still no doctrine, but the observation post is finally cleared out, and the Sherman crashes in. Volksgrenadiers out in the open as the Sherman blasts away. 50 caliber on the top as well, but the pack fires away, penetrating the frontal armor, forcing the Sherman away. At the same time, we are seeing an American assault in the east. Riflemen and engineers pressing forwards, and these Volksgrenadiers are not looking happy about it, taking heavy casualties and forced into a swift retreat. And looks like he is realizing that with a breakthrough in the east, this is a pretty good spot for the Sherman to hit, or perhaps even between my forces, causing a bit of confusion there. But of course he is not aware of the secret weapon up my sleeve, a second pack right in front of him in fact. This is a good spot about ambush, and Panzerschrecks as well, and the Sherman flies out of control. Riflemen pushing through in the east, but the Sherman is no more. The half-track though is not looking too good either. Pioneers will have to initiate repairs, or at least get out and in again, so at least they can reman the guns. And there we go, major American assault, lots of riflemen from all sides, flamethrowers, and will we be seeing American grenades as well? I cannot say. Half-track though looking awfully damaged. Grenades thrown at the Americans, heavy losses. Pack cleared out, my goodness, and the MG42 trying to set up, but it sets up at the wrong angle. The gunner so desperately wanting to help cannot fire through the bocage, but the half-track though does once more a sterling job, really holding back the American forces, pinning and suppressing everyone. That does not wear the badge of the Wehrmacht. And now the American forces are forced into a full retreat. Desperately pinned down the engineers in the building, and the riflemen as well. Everyone getting out of there. And the half-track doing a rather sterling job at that. Once more, half-track to the rescue. And we are seeing further grenadiers getting ready, alongside some more veteran Volksgrenadiers, or at least ones that have actually killed something. And grenadiers and Volksgrenadiers at the front getting reinforced thanks to this half-track, which is at the same time receiving some reinforcements. My goodness, this has rather been a rather heavy-handed match already, despite the fact, again, it's rather short. In fact, let's return to me. So far, I have inspired assault. I have rather tendency of trying to work it out. I'm still not sure how effective it is, although I have seen be decently effective. Of course, it also makes your troops a lot easier to hit, so of course, you'll have to think about things a bit. But half-track once more being repaired, and looks like we're seeing another mass assault from the Americans, although they seem to be one rifle team short. But still, they have it in them for another assault. Despite heavy losses, they shall not allow the 91st Luftlande Division to hold this area. I seem to have a hiccup. And looks like the riflemen are getting absolutely torn apart by the Volksgrenadiers. One team getting gunned and focused down. And there we go, but looks like one Volksgrenadier team is lost as well. Half-track standing once more. Watch against the riflemen, but they move in with a sticky bomb, and they at the same time suppress themselves. Grenadiers move in with a BAR in hand, but they are forced to retreat. But further Grenadiers and riflemen flood in from the west, opening up on these riflemen. My goodness, and this pack is not doing too well either. Now getting once more single out. Rather interestingly still that we have not seen a single support doctrine again. I mean, there's a lot of fuel and a lot of munitions, and really had he gone for that, he could have done a lot better. I can't remember his rank, but I do believe he was around 10 or 11, perhaps 12. It's a bit time since I had this game. Still, well, not entirely bad, but still a bit odd. He hasn't chosen a doctrine. And grenades being flung once more at these riflemen, killing quite a few, and once more the half-track does its job, suppressing and killing and turning this remaining rifleman team into pulp. And there you go, another victory for the fatherland, as the 91st Luftlande Division held this area, this vital crossroads, allowing supplies to march further up to other divisions. So there you go, a rather short match. I hope you don't mind, but I thought it was interesting and of some value. And of course, I thought it was also rather intense for such a rather short match. You had a lot of fighting on all sides, shifting of positions. You had tanks even for such a short match. Half-tracks, grenades, mines, everything, and of course a lot of barbed wire. So of course, what can we learn from this? Well, mines are good, but also trying to keep your opponent gripped in a sort of nasty battle of attrition is better. That was rather what won me here. Despite the fact that he was able to really pressure and hold most of the map, I was able to slowly drain the life out of him because of partly due to all this barbed wire, but also the sandbags I kept, which rather minimized my losses. And while I might have repeatedly been forced to retreat, I was also able to really extract some manpower losses from him, and that's rather what counts as well. The war of attrition. Yes, territory counts, but manpower counts even more. And that was rather partly what I won on. Yes, he had a Sherman and everything, but really, and one other thing, he also lacked was really some outlet for all that munitions, which could really have helped some grenades, or again artillery or strafing run, but sadly he never got any, and I'm pretty convinced he was around the 10, 11, 12 ranking, but still, clearly he wasn't bad. I mean, he was able to really attack at all points, find any weak spots, and really rush through there, but at the same time, though, he just lacked that bit. He took too many losses in the process, and of course, he wasn't quite aware that I had two packs, since of course the sort of lack of any sort of vehicles armor rather gave it away that he perhaps was going for armor, and rather allowed me to prepare for it rather severely. Although it was a bit of a shame I never really got to use that Sturm armory, although something seemed to be on the way there. Of course, a medic station could also really have been of help. A medic bunker could also have been of help for me. Of course, also the thing to note is, of course, barbed wire can really make a difference. It can be nice, so use it if you can. And of course, half-tracks once more really made a difference. It rather killed, it rather pinned, and of course it made most of his infantry assaults on the larger scale that much harder, and they really bogged it down. So of course, if you can use it, use it. It can really make a difference, in particular if you can get some veterancy on it, which I didn't. In fact, I only got veterancy 1 for my infantry anyhow. I hope you enjoyed this fight. If you did, why not subscribe or tell your friends, and if you didn't, well, why not send a replay of your own. This is ImperialDane saying half-tracks nice, barbed wire is nice, and of course, bleeding your opponent of MP manpower is the best thing in the world. This is ImperialDane saying cheers.